Hello and welcome to the Met Office Weather Studio Live. We're right here, Met Office HQ in Exeter, as always, 12:15 on Friday, to answer your questions and give you the latest info on the weather. And, well, I'm Aidan McGivern, by the way.
And I'm Alex Burkill. I was just...
The screen at the moment.
Oh, it's happened again. The lights have gone out. No, I was horrified at the fact that we're using the old intro there, I think, because pretty sure I got put in after months of complaining that I wasn't in the intro.
We decided to remove you again. Sorry.
I took a week off and I get removed. Oh well, not to worry. Hello, yes, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We've swapped places from the last few times that we've done this.
Yeah, we did it 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
And then I was with Honor last week. I mean, this is my 6th time in the last 6 weeks.
People aren't sick of you.
Sorry about that. But yeah, I've got 2 weeks off next 2 weeks, so you won't be seeing me then.
No, I've got Alex joining me next week, and I don't know.
On your own? Maybe. On your own.
Maybe. I'm not entirely sure. But heat, that's been a big topic this week.
Yeah, the 4th heat wave, and once again, temperatures up into the low 30s. We had a new reading in a day or two ago, I think, from Somerset. So the top UK temperature from that heat wave was actually 33.9 Celsius.
Oh, okay.
From a climate station in Somerset. So sometimes these climate stations, they only get checked once every few days or so. And yeah, that one came in a bit later than the top temperatures that we were reporting on the day from the likes of Northolt and Benson. Those were the ones that were coming out at 33.4 Celsius on the day. But 33.9 Celsius is what it got to on Tuesday. That was the peak of the heat. But of course, it's been hot in many places since then. Today's cooler for some, but it's still hot down here in the southwest.
Yeah, in the southwest, today is probably the hottest day of this hot spell. And there is more hot weather to come as we go through this weekend. But like you say, Tuesday was the peak. Also worth bearing in mind, whilst it was hot on Tuesday, 33s. Not quite as hot as it was earlier on in the summer when we had like 35s. So a very hot one nonetheless. And like you say, heatwave 4.0, but it's still with us for a little while yet. I will be looking at what's going to happen with our temperatures. And yay boy 433, your question, are we going to get affected by Tropical Storm Erin? I will be talking about that as well when I head over to the screen, answering how it's likely to impact the UK in around a week, 10 days, maybe even a little bit further ahead.
Brilliant. Few questions come in already, and we'll look at those in a bit, but also some questions from Honour's 10-day trends, so we'll cover those off. Mr. Philip Graham, this has got to be one of the driest years on record. Never thought I'd say this living in South Wales, but we need a couple of weeks of solid rain. I don't think you'd have said that this time last year either, because it's been quite a turnaround in a year. In terms of, we went from such a wet period of weather, 15 to 18 months, up until the end of last year. Now we've gone through this whole year where we've had just the recurrence of high pressure systems and very dry weather. It's not running at the driest on record, but it is. Have you got a picture?
I've got a graph that I can show you.
See.
So I'll head over to the screen early. I'll come back to the desk. Don't worry, Aidan. I'm not going to leave you forever. But yes, this is the cumulative rainfall throughout the year, comparing it to both average and then the highest and the lowest in previous years. And you can see the brown colours indicating that, yes, as no one would be surprised to see, it has been significantly drier than average and very close to the higher lines. I mean, we're below the 95th centile, or the 5th centile really. We're below that, so one of the driest on records, but actually not particularly close to the driest on record. So yes, it has been exceptionally dry. It will be one of the driest years unless something major changes as we go through the autumn and early winter months, but not quite the driest on record for this stage in the year, but a little bit still to play for.
And of course, those kinds of graphs can change quickly. You know, you get a few weeks of very wet weather and all of a sudden it's not even looking that dry. So it can change very quickly, that sort of graph. It'll be interesting to see how autumn plays out, because we've got a few factors here. We've got the very warm seas, which of course can cause enhanced precipitation. But at the same time, just this pattern where we get this recurrence of high pressure. We get occasional changeable spells, which we've seen through the summer, but high pressure keeps coming back, and that's what we're talking about right at the moment. High pressure in charge as we speak. Another question from Honour's 10-day trend. How often is average temperature updated? Presumably average temperature is slowly increasing as we get more hot summers than in the past. That's from Tech Noir 444. Yeah, that gets updated, doesn't it? Every 10 years we get a new 30-year average. So the averages that we quote, they're based on a 30-year period. The current averaging period that we compare our weather to is 1991 up to 2020. But by the time we get into the 2030s, we'll be talking about, blimey, 2001 up to 2030. Imagine that.
Yeah, that'll be the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and interestingly, when we go from one decade or one group of 3 decades to the next, we can see slight fluctuations in the detail. For example, the wettest month on average might change. In the past it has, and also maybe the hottest month might change as well. So it's not only this warming trend that we're seeing, but the detail changes a little bit as well. So it's always quite interesting when we get those coming out. I often look into them and get quite interested.
Also, that comparison of 30-year averages is the most reliable way to detect a warming or a wetting up signal in the climate, because, of course, that 30-year period will smooth out the year-to-year variation that we get. And, you know, the fact that we've had so many hot summers in the last 10 years, that might have a significant impact on the next 30-year average. It would be interesting to see.
Now, Gordon's asked a question, is it true that drier ground is unable to absorb the water as effectively? And the answer is yes. We can see experiments just by putting, a cup of water on some very dry ground and then doing the same with a cup of water on some wetter ground. And you can see the difference in how quickly the ground's able to absorb it. And that's why when we get intense thunderstorms during periods of hot, sunny weather, why the impacts are likely to be greater. And we talk about the fact that whilst people are often crying out for rain, which we have been really through much of this summer, when it becomes in a short period of time and the ground doesn't have that chance to wet up, then we often get surface flooding, which causes issues, and we don't get the positive effect of the water being absorbed into the ground as well, because it just runs off into drains and gets cleared away. And so, yes, Gordon, that is true, and it's something that we take into account when it comes to looking at impacts from various wet weather.
Question for you from this week's Deep Dive, which was your deep dive. Great as always. That's from Rio Joker. Not sure if he's joking when he says great as always, but there's a clue there in the name. Is there any reason you do this live and without edits? Must put a lot of unnecessary pressure on the presenters.
Well, I guess I could ask you that, because I came into this a few years after you'd started doing the deep dives, and it had always been the way that we do the deep dives as live. We are able to do some minor edits. If I had a coughing fit or suddenly collapsed or something, then we could edit that out and tweak it a little bit, because it's not quite live, but we try to get them out as quickly as possible. I suppose the main reasons that we do it as live is time, because it's a lot quicker from our point of view, so that we prepare everything, prepare all the graphics, and then we get it, and then there's less editing involved at the end of the day, and so, or not the end of the day, but just as soon as we've recorded. And so then the story's more up to date, and we can get you the information as quickly as possible. And the other reason being, the deep dives have always been, they're a way of reaching out to you, the audience, as meteorologists, and seeing our thinking and our process that goes behind everything that we're putting out on our other output. Whereas a deep dive, it doesn't need to be clean, it doesn't need to be so precise and smooth, because it's meant to be this rough and ready insight into what's going on here at the Met Office. So I think that's why we keep it as this nice, quick format. We say quick. They've become longer and longer over the past couple of years. When I first started presenting, the deep dives were regularly around 20 minutes, but now if you do one around 20 minutes, you seem to be shortchanging the audience, with them usually closer to 30, if not 40 now.
Yeah, I mean, what we're doing now, this is properly live. It is going out as a live broadcast on YouTube. There's no edits with this. the deep dive as live, as you mentioned, we can make some minor edits every now and again, and the way that we'll do that is by going full screen on the graphics and just making a little bit of a cut there. So see if you can spot a join. But that only happens if we make a mistake, genuine mistake, 15 minutes in, and we don't want to record the first 15 minutes again. Or if we have a guest and we want to bring the guest in or whatever, then we might do 2 parts. But mostly it is recorded in one go.
Especially if the guest is tight for time and doesn't have the time to stand watching our whole deep dive for 20, 30 minutes before we get a chance to speak to them.
Okay, there was another question there. Oh yeah, why haven't there been any extreme heat warnings released this year with so many heat waves?
Yeah.
Have they been discontinued and left to the Environment Agency? I think what they mean is the UK HSA, Health Security Agency, and their heat health alerts, which are different to the Met Office extreme heat warnings. So the heat health alerts they serve a different purpose. They're for England only, and they are an NHS England requirement so that they can manage resources and so that they can understand when they're likely to see extra strain on services because of hot weather affecting disproportionately vulnerable people and so on. So they do these heat health alerts based on our forecast, but we don't issue them. Then you've got these extreme heat warnings, which there's no yellow extreme heat warnings. They are only categorized as amber or red. So unlike other warnings, no yellow. So it really has to have quite significant impacts. And essentially, although we've had these 4 heat waves, none of them have quite reached the threshold in which we would expect those kinds of significant impacts on the population, mostly because they haven't seen the extreme temperatures, or they haven't had those extreme temperatures for long enough. So they have generally been a few days in duration.
This week's a prime example of that, in as much as we had temperatures of very close to 30 or 30 above for several days, but actually where in the UK was hottest changed day on day. So for example, today it's hottest towards the southwest and slightly cooler across more eastern parts. And in fact, tomorrow with some cloud, I'll show you in a second, it's going to be a fair bit cooler still across eastern parts. And so because of that change in where the hot weather is, although the hot weather's always been around the UK, no individual places has been trapped under the exceptional heat for a really long period of time. And it's in those kind of instances that you'd then get the greatest impacts, when the majority or more people would be affected by the hot weather. So no, we haven't discontinued them. It's just because of the setup that we've had through this year, even though we've had 4 heat waves, they haven't quite reached the threshold that we require for a warning to have been issued. As Aidan says, we only do amber and reds, so the threshold has to be quite high.
Alfie Lewis has asked, is the heatwave ending next week?
Should I go over to the board then?
Yeah.
And let's look at the UK weather as we go through this weekend, and I'll also look ahead to next week. So let's start off looking at the bigger picture that we have across the UK. And currently, as you're no doubt aware, we have high pressure firmly in control across the UK, and that's bringing a lot of settled weather. Not totally dry. We've had some showers across parts of Scotland through today, some drizzly rain, and actually yesterday there were some pretty intense thunderstorms around. But today a largely dry picture across many parts, and also some fairly hot weather. But as we go through the week into the weekend, there are a couple of things that I want to draw your attention to. So one being the fact that the high still stays around, but it's more towards the northwest of the UK. And what that means in terms of our cloud amount, and if I put our cloud layer on, and remember that winds go around in a clockwise direction around our high pressure, because of the position of this high, it's going to allow for us to be dragging in some cloud, some low cloud, across eastern parts in particular, as we go through tonight and into tomorrow. So some fret. Coming in across eastern parts. And so we are going to wake up to a bit of a west-east split as we go through into tomorrow morning, in as much as across western parts it's looking largely bright, it's largely sunny from the start. Meanwhile, across more eastern parts, perhaps some central areas as well, there's going to be some cloud. Now, a lot of this cloud is going to burn back as we go through the day, but not all of it. It could linger in a few places, and then whether or not it burns back or not, it's still going to have an impact on our temperatures. If I get our temperature forecast up for, let's look at Saturday, for example, and what you can see is still hot across parts of southwest England, in particular down the western side, high 20s. We may just about scrape into a low 30s somewhere perhaps. But in those areas where we wake up to the low clouds, murkiness perhaps, it's going to be quite a bit cooler on Saturday. And that's for two reasons. One, because the cloud could linger in some places, so that's going to stop the sun getting through, so that will help prevent the temperatures from rising. Two, we do have the flow coming in from the North Sea, so that's going to keep things cooler as well. And even when the cloud burns away, a lot of that sun's energy will have been taken up by burning that cloud away. So whilst in the west we'll get the heating from the sun through large chunks of the day, further east it's going to be until well into the afternoon in some places before we get the sun really heating things up, and so that's going to keep temperatures pegged back a little bit. But depending on how you feel about cloud, how you feel about high temperatures and stuff, I either have good news or bad news. As we go through, let's just dart ahead, so as we go through later Saturday, and more so overnight into Sunday, notice the position of the high changes just ever so slightly. It just shifts a little bit further towards the east, and as a result of that, we're less likely to see the low cloud pushing back in as we go through Saturday night into Sunday. Light winds across much of the country, not everywhere, I'll talk about that in a second, but across many places, so it could be a cooler night perhaps as we go through Saturday into Sunday, but yes, a brighter start for much of the UK, particularly across central eastern parts, on Sunday morning than it will have been on Saturday morning. And then we stick with the largely fine sunny weather as we go through into Sunday as well. Now, before I go even further ahead, I did allude to this a second ago. I do just want to highlight the winds that we have across parts of the southwest as we go through Saturday into Sunday. Now, because of the position of the high pressure, near the high, winds are pretty light, but the further you are from the centre of the high, that's where you start to get some stronger winds. And actually around parts of, Cornwall, maybe western Devon, just kind of to the west of Dartmoor, we could have some unseasonably strong winds. We're not talking stormy or anything like that, but gusts of maybe 40, 50 miles per hour, perhaps a little bit stronger around some exposed coastal parts along the Cornish coast, and western parts of Dartmoor, perhaps at risk of seeing some pretty strong winds. Like I say, Saturday into Sunday, and because of the time of year, lots of people camping, etc., that could cause some localized issues, but just be aware it could be pretty blustery there because you're further away from the high pressure. And then what happens as we go through through the end of the weekend and into the beginning of next week, and I'm going to put my rain on, because as the high shifts a little bit further up towards the north, that could allow for some showery rain to come in from the southwest, and then that's likely to push its way across parts of southwest England, into Wales, perhaps even into Northern Ireland. I mean, this paints perhaps a little bit of a pessimistic picture if it's rain that you're not a fan of. If you're hoping for some rain, then this perhaps paints too much of an optimistic picture in terms of the rainfall that we're expecting early next week, because I think it could be quite elevated, the showery risk, so how much of the rain actually reaches the ground, some questions there. Nonetheless, we could get some heavier bursts, perhaps a bit of thunder mixed in, but as we discussed already, with the ground so dry, if you get intense rain, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be enough to help alleviate some of the issues that are ongoing because of the largely dry weather that we've had so far. So for many places, this really won't be enough to help with that side of things. But the original question was temperatures, and so I just want to cover that. So the hot weather is continuing for a little while yet. I think as we go through into the weekend, there's still going to be lots of places away from those North Sea coastal parts, still in the mid to high 20s, maybe just about getting into the low 30s on both Saturday and Sunday in a few spots, but perhaps less likely than the last couple of days. I did mention there's less cloud coming into those North Sea parts by Sunday, and that is true, but you'll see the temperatures actually look quite similar. That's because these temperatures are highlighting the coastal spots, and they're still going to get that flow coming in from the North Sea, so that's why it's always going to be that little bit fresher, that little bit more comfortable perhaps across some North Sea places. But looking with our temperatures, and I've just dragged in a couple of places. And if we look at Aberdeen, Belfast, Bristol, and here are meteograms from ECMWF, and there really does look like there's going to be a downward trend with our temperatures as we go through next week. And in fact, if we take Aberdeen, for example, we're likely to see them going from a fair bit above at the moment to around average as we go through the weekend, and then a bit below average as we go into the beginning of next week. And that's all because of the position of the high pressure, allowing for the air to come down from the northeast, and that's going to lead to particularly northeastern parts of the UK seeing their temperatures drop. Further south and west, the drop in temperature perhaps slightly less marked, in as much as, well, they're looking at Bristol, for example, they're way above average for the time of year at the moment, and then they're dropping down closer to, but still staying just above average as we go through into the middle of next week. But in terms of what's going to happen with our weather as we look even further ahead, and well, in order to understand that, we need to look at what's happening currently out in the Atlantic, because there is a tropical storm Erin, which is expected to strengthen pretty soon. It's currently a tropical storm. Very soon it's going to become a hurricane as it pushes its way northwestwards, and then as we go through this weekend it's likely to become a major hurricane, and this could bring some significant impacts, particularly to northern parts of the Caribbean. But fortunately, if this is the forecast track, the cone that it's likely to take, fortunately it keeps it to the north of any major landfall, and so it's likely to stay out to sea, which is good news really. But you can see there is the potential that it could track a little bit further south, a little bit closer to land. If that happens, it's likely that it might not be quite as intense a feature as if it stays just that little bit further north. So there is the potential that we could see it getting closer to places like the Bahamas, for example, as we go through into early next week. But if it does so, then it's less likely to be quite as intense a feature as if it takes the more likely forecast track and keeping things a little bit further towards the northeast. Nonetheless, you would expect parts of the Caribbean to have some impacts from tropical storm, currently going to be hurricane, likely to be major hurricane Erin, in the form of some large swell, large waves, some strong winds, but hopefully the greatest potential impacts, or greatest more severe weather, is going to stay out to sea. What then happens with the forecast track of it is it keeps it going northwestwards before curling around up the eastern side of the US and then heading back northeastwards up the eastern side of Canada, and then it's likely to push its way across the Atlantic. And now, when that happens, as we often see at this time of year, a very deep low, a tropical low out in the Atlantic, can really play havoc with the forecast confidence for what's going to happen as we go through next week for the UK. And so I think, well, we need to look quite far ahead, but let's get back my pressure sequence. And if we just try and find, Erin, I've got a little bit lost, but as we go through, if I just run through to Sunday, we should see it. So here you can see it running through, and you can see the track that it's likely to take up the eastern side, and then it's likely to push its way eastwards. My pressure sequence doesn't go out quite far enough, but worth bearing in mind, there's another low pressure system towards the west of us in between Erin and what we currently have across the UK, and so we could see something a little bit more changeable for a time. But as Erin is likely to come across the Atlantic, there are a few possibilities. There's always going to be uncertainty with this type of feature. Now, I think what's likely to happen is this is going to push its way across, and then we could see a bit of a ridge building, high pressure building again as we go towards the bank holiday weekend. And so we could have some pretty settled weather again. We could see temperatures rising. We could have a fairly decent weekend if it's fine, sunny, warm weather that you're after. The other possibility is it comes across and it could bring some pretty unsettled weather instead. So here are some model runs from ECMWF, our various ensemble members. So we've run the model lots, or they've run the model lots and lots of times with slightly different ingredients to show possible outcomes for the bank holiday Monday. And if we just take, well, what you can see, they're pretty small, but what you can see is there's pretty large spread amongst the possible solutions for what's going to happen as we go through the bank holiday weekend, mainly as a result of what's happening currently with Erin out in the Atlantic. But if I pick two members, and they tell a very different story. Member 3 highlights high pressure building across the country, and so this could bring some pretty fine weather to many places. But then look at member 10, a very different story, has a deep low. In fact, some members have even deeper lows than this, and so then we could see some very unsettled weather instead. At the moment, it looks like something closer to member 3 looks perhaps a bit more likely than member 10, but there kind of could be anything in between. So I think what looks likely is Erin will come across the Atlantic. It's going to push in. There's likely to be a ridge of high pressure building before it comes towards us, so we will have the weather settling down for a little while. But exactly how far Erin gets across, how deep it is by the time it reaches us, and how close it gets to UK, that's still uncertain. And so whether or not the ridge that could well build as we go through the latter part of next week sticks around through the whole of the bank holiday weekend, or if instead we get something much more unsettled, well, that's the big question and still all to play for. So definitely one that we'll be keeping on top of as we go through the next, week or so and head closer towards the bank holiday.
Yeah, it's an interesting time of year, isn't it, when you get these hurricanes getting involved, and they don't necessarily always come across as deep lows and cause unsettled weather. They can throw up a ridge of high pressure. We were talking actually last week about Dexter, this tropical storm, ex-tropical storm by the time it moved into the North Atlantic. And the result of Dexter, of course, was that it caused the jet stream to push north, and now we've got high pressure across the UK. So these ex-tropical systems, they can influence the UK's weather either directly as low pressure systems bringing wind and rain, or they can indirectly influence the UK's weather, cause a change in the jet stream and cause high pressure, cause higher temperatures and so on. So it's always interesting to see, which of those effects will happen, isn't it?
Yeah, it causes us big headaches at this time of year. It's fairly typical for uncertainty for the 7 to 14-day period to be pretty high as a result of what's happening out in the US. I was trying to get the satellite imagery, trying to show where Dexter was earlier on this week, but it's a little bit difficult to pinpoint exactly. But I did cover it in my deep dive, showing that actually, yeah, like you say, it brought a lot of the warm, hot weather that we had through this week.
Yeah. A few questions come in. A lot of them about cloud cover, actually, because people have got plans that are dependent on cloud cover. This one in particular, let me just find it. It was about Bodmin and the Perseids. Did anyone see the Perseids? Peaked on Tuesday. Still the chance to see the Perseids over the next few nights. This meteor shower that happens every year at this time of year. And there was some spectacular displays on Tuesday night. So here we go. Sin Wong is coming down Met Office Way tomorrow to photograph the Perseid meteor shower on Bodmin. Of course, Bodmin, a great place to look at the Perseids because it's a dark sky reserve. I think it might be a different name, but it's famously a really good place to take photos of the night skies. How many nights are going to be clear over Bodmin next few nights?
Well, most of them, to be honest. If I just run through, and this is this coming night, so Saturday morning, and you can see as far as, well, across much of the southwest, down the western side, it's largely clear. Down the eastern side, there's a bit more cloud. Potential that we could see some cloud coming in from the Channel, so maybe Dartmoor a little bit less likely to stay clear skies as we go through the whole of this coming night. But I think for Bodmin, you are probably going to be okay. Then if we dart ahead to the following night, and I think I've gone too far ahead, I have. So let's go back. And like I said before, less cloud as we go through Saturday night into Sunday. So many places having a clear night, a little bit of cloud for parts of eastern Scotland and a little bit of high level cloud here and there, but on the whole, a largely clear night. And then it's kind of more of a similar story to this coming night as we go through Sunday into Monday, with eastern parts having more cloud again. Perhaps a bit more cloud in the southwest at times as we go through into Monday morning, but really, if you're coming down this way, it looks like you've picked a good place because there will be lots of clear skies on offer through the next few nights.
Actually, I'm going to correct myself. It's Exmoor, isn't it? That's the dark sky reserve, but Bodmin also really good for viewing the night sky. Eastbourne Air Show, will that be cloudy over the weekend? It's quite uncertain, isn't it?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I think Sunday's looking okay. So just whilst I'm on Sunday, so you can see Sunday's it's sunny. I don't think we're expecting the cloud from the start, but with these kind of features that we have through this evening, through tonight and into tomorrow, it's quite difficult to know exactly how quickly the cloud is going to break up. I think there are signs that it could be quite cloudy to start off with, but then by the time that we get to the middle of the day and the afternoon, most places will see the cloud burning back, and so it should be largely fine. I'm not entirely sure what time the air show is, but hopefully by the time most of the exciting activities happening, most of the cloud will have burnt away.
And just briefly, music festival in Yorkshire this weekend. It's looking pretty good, isn't it? It's cloudy at first and then increasingly sunny.
Yeah, lots of dry. And I guess if you're at a music festival, it's sometimes a bit difficult to find shade. And so not having it wall-to-wall sunshine baking hot like it has been at times earlier on this week, and it will be at times across parts of the west, southwest this weekend, that's probably a good thing in many ways. So yeah, not quite as hot, a bit cooler there, more cloud on Saturday, but sunnier by Sunday.
Speaking of music, that's the theme of this week's quiz.
What a segue. It's almost like you sent that question in just for yourself.
Okay, so this week's quiz is music related. It's not quite going to be Popmaster, but the common theme here is it's not just music, it's weather-related music.
My favourite things joined together, music and weather.
I came up with 7 questions actually. I had to whittle it down to 5, so there might be a part 2 coming up soon because I've already got 2 out of 5 questions for the next music-related quiz. Now, as always, if you haven't played along at home before, we're going to see a poll come up in the live chat.
That's if Ross and Rosie are able to do it. So
yeah, big thanks to Ross and Rosie, Rosie's never done it before. Ross hasn't done it for a long time. We're thin on the ground today, so they are helping out. But it looks like they're doing a great job so far in the live chat. So that's who you're speaking to if you're speaking to the live chat at the moment. And so they're going to try and put up a poll. If it doesn't work, it's not a disaster. We'll just fire them and no, we won't. We won't. So there's 5 questions and there's multiple choice as always. So feel free to play along at home. Alex is going to send me his answers on Teams. It's not going to be too difficult, I promise.
It's basically potluck, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Let's go for it, Lo.
Okay, Bob Dylan famously sang, "The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind." But what percentage of Bob Dylan's 542 songs mention the weather? What percentage of his back catalogue mentions the weather?
I actually know this.
How do you know this?
Of course I don't know this. It's stupidly random. As if I know this.
Okay, is it A, 1%, B, 5%, C, 30%, or D, 90%?
I'm guessing it's not 90, because that's ridiculous. So just his songs need to mention anything to do with the weather at some point in the song.
This has been, some scientists studied this.
So you didn't listen to
I didn't listen to all 542 songs.
I was going to message your wife and be like,
there were some scientists
Bob Dylan
who published a study on this, believe it or not.
Okay. Could you give me the answers again, please?
Is it 1%, 5%, 30%, or 90%? Let's see what the crowd at home are going for.
I'm guessing it's higher than 1, because if a scientist has taken the time, then must have thought, oh, he mentions the weather a lot, this lad.
This lad, Bob Dylan. Oh, poll has been complete, 66
But wait,
votes.
don't give me the answer, because
this
is we fell down on this one last time, and
There were 2 very clear top answers from the poll. That's interesting. Most of you went for one of 2 answers.
Okay, I'm going to go with C.
Okay,
I think it's a high amount.
You think it's 30%. But 50% of the audience at home said 5%. 42% went with 30%. So the 1%, 90% options weren't popular. But Andrew Jones-Maguire went with you, 30%. Isaac King said 5%.
Trying to get into your head with the way that you ask your questions.
Okay.
No, I'll leave that.
George Harrison wrote "Here Comes the Sun" on a warm day in April after a particularly cold February and March. What was the year? 1963, 1969, 1970, 1976. So there was a cold February and March. He came out of, let's see, he wrote the song at Eric Clapton's house after skipping a Beatles business meeting. The UK had just come out of a cold winter, particularly February and March. I've looked at the stats and that verifies that February and March were particularly cold. And then April was a lot warmer, the sun came out and it inspired Here Comes the Sun. So what year was that? 1963, 1969, 1970 or 1976?
So I think 1963 is a bit early. 69 and 70, that seems about the right time frame. 76, my guess is you threw that in as a curveball because of the hot summer of 76. So I'm going, it's either B or C in my mind. Or it could be A or D. I've got my answer. I'm going to go C again.
Right, gone with 1970.
Yeah.
Most of the guesses at home, 1969 or 1970. So
We're just going down the middle though, aren't we, guys? Are we playing too safe? Because Aidan doesn't play it safe.
41% of people went with 1969. That was the most popular answer. 30% went with 1970. Okay, we'll see. This is a straightforward one now. Thunder only happens when it's raining. True or false? A, true, or B, false. So that's Fleetwood Mac.
What does it?
You've gone with straight away with your answer there.
Does it have to be raining where you are? Well,
I'm only. It doesn't specify
whatever.
that in the lyrics of the song. It just claims, makes this claim. Thunder only happens when it's raining.
I'm surprised you didn't come up with two other options as well, like to make it for true, false, sometimes true, sometimes false.
Well, then you're
Anyway.
getting, yeah. I think this is it always true or is it always false?
Did the
Anyway.
Beatles split up in 1970?
Yeah.
Or someone's. Oh, can I change my answer then? Because unless that's what the important business meeting, and because George didn't attend the business meeting, they're like, this guy just complaining about that it's cold.
Just talking about the weather.
Yeah.
We've got too many weather-related songs. Maybe that's what they were.
So they split up
about.
Yeah, but then they're like, well, not as many as Bob Dylan. He has loads.
he's got
90%.
X percentage. Oh, look at that. 95% of you said false.
Good. Great.
4% said true. Does that mean that 1% went with something that wasn't an option? I don't know.
They went with one of those other options you should have given us.
Richard Newton says it's probably raining somewhere all the time.
Well, that is true. Yeah, breaking down my my question.
Donald
Okay.
Barron, volcanic lightning, of course. Yeah, you can get lightning above a volcano, can't you? Okay, good point.
Yeah.
Why does it always rain on me? Is it because I lied when I was 17? That's not the question. Why does it always rain on me? Maybe it's because Travis live in Scotland. They're Scottish band, aren't they? Or maybe they live in the rainiest place on Earth by the number of rainy days per year. What location on Earth has the most number of rain days per year?
Yeah, I get
Okay.
you. Yeah.
Is it Mosinram in India? Is it Hilo in Hawaii? Is it Mount Waialae in Hawaii? Or is it Cherrapunji in India? There's two options there, India, two for Hawaii. Okay, choice A was Mosinram in India. B was Hilo in Hawaii. C was Mount Waialae in Hawaii. And D was Cherrapunji in India. What's the rainiest place on Earth by the number of rain days each year? How many days of rain they get each year?
I like how closely this is linked to that Travis song.
Yeah.
Because, of course.
Because they could be in that location. That's why it always rains on them, right?
So Slim Handle thought it was in the Philippines, not in India or Hawaii. So their weather book from when they were 11 must have
Is that what it says?
been out of date. Yes, right. I don't know.
Gordy B doesn't have a Scooby-Doo on this question.
My guess is it's not B or C because I feel like we've had B and C as the answers for the other ones. So it's either A or D. And I'm going to go... So that suggests it's somewhere in India. So what were the two Indian options again?
Mawsynram
Yeah.
and Cherrapunji.
Let's go with that one.
I'll give you a clue. They're all wet places.
Well,
all of them are wet places, right? One of those is the wettest place on Earth, but it's not the same as the total number of rain days.
Oh, I see.
And if you think about India's climate, what do they have?
They have heavy rain.
Yeah, monsoon, right?
So
they have a dry
probably
season.
The wettest place on Earth. So it's probably a Hawaii one then. Yeah. Oh, well, I've given my answer now.
Anyway.
You could have given me that clue before I put my answer in, couldn't you?
Let's see what the poll says. Most people went... Did you go with Cherrapunji?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 29% went with that. 28% went with Mawsynram in India. 28%. It was kind of equally split, actually. Equally split. Okay. Katrina and the Waves sang I'm Walking on Sunshine. But what is the temperature of the sun?
I thought you were going to say true or false. Can you walk on sunshine? I was like, no, I know that.
Yeah, well...
I guess you can. If you walk on
if you walk on the light ground, the pavement that's lit by the sun.
Anyway,
no, that's not the question.
That's my question.
What's the temperature of the surface of the sun? Is it A, 5,500 Celsius? Is it B, 15,000 Celsius? C, 15 million Celsius? Or D, 2.5 trillion Celsius?
I used to know this, but I don't.
5,500 Celsius.
That's toasty.
15,000 Celsius. 15 million Celsius or 2.5 trillion Celsius. Do you want a clue?
Yeah.
You're struggling?
Yeah.
A bolt of lightning
Yeah.
is hotter than the surface of the sun.
Yeah. How hot's a bolt of lightning?
I'm not going to tell you that. I'll give it away.
Is it hotter than 15,000 Celsius?
Might be. Surface is a gas, maybe far away from core, slim handle. That's true. There's not a physical surface, but the way that they define the surface.
Yeah.
This is the temperature we're looking for. Andrew Jones Maguire, I believe the surface is paradoxically cooler than the outer sun. I went 15,000. What have you gone with?
I've gone with A.
Okay. Well, all 5 answers have been logged. You've done all right. You've done all, you're not going to be embarrassed.
Okay. I mean, the true or false questions helped, hasn't it?
Yeah. That admittedly
that saved my embarrassment.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just waiting for the poll to come up on that question to see how everyone did at home. How can you be in the Met Office and not know the temperature of a lightning bolt? Exactly, Alex Lang.
I've got so many figures in my head that's one that slipped.
34% of people went with 15 million degrees Celsius. And now that I'm giving away the answer, I'm going to say that was one of the answers, 15 million.
Oh.
That's actually the temperature of the interior of the sun.
Ah.
The surface is much cooler. So let's go through the answers.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan famously sang, the answer is Blowing in the Wind. What percentage of Bob Dylan's 542 songs mention the weather? You are correct, it is 30%.
Yay! I'm a big Bob Dylan fan.
163 songs reference weather or climate, making him the most weather-obsessed songwriter in history.
Is he still alive?
Bob Dylan? Yeah.
Okay, we should get him in. We should get him on a Weather Studio
He's
Live.
been waiting for this. Let's see if he responds in the chat.
He's probably watching. Bob, what are you doing next week? Come join Alex and me for a Weather Studio Live. We can sing. You can sing. I won't sing. Anyway.
He didn't trust weathermen, though, because one of his other lyrics was, you wouldn't ask a weatherman which direction the wind blows. I've totally messed that one up, but it's I paraphrase. It's about asking a weatherman. Would you ask a weatherman?
That was back in the day, wasn't it?
Yeah, and now weathermen.
We're better now.
We're better at telling. But to be fair, you wouldn't necessarily ask a weatherman what direction the wind blows. You'd consult an anemometer, or you'd look at your official weather observation station. The weatherman would tell you which way the wind will be blowing, not which way it is blowing.
I feel we'd be a safer bet than asking.
We'll just bring him on,
like
and we can talk about this.
Okay. Yeah. There we go.
Question 3. Oh no, I haven't done question 2 yet.
I think this is B, but I think I put C, but I think the answer's B now.
It is 1969 that George Harrison wrote Here Comes the Sun. It was one of the coldest Februaries on record. It was like number 7 coldest. One of the coldest I think it was 12th coldest March on record. And then April came along, sun came out. George Harrison enjoyed the sunshine, said, Here Comes the Sun, and turned it into a song. And it was 1969. So congratulations. I think more people got that right at home.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. Thank you for that, lots of people.
Oh, that's not criticising us.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you don't have to be you don't have to be a weatherman, but it helps. Yeah. He should have said, but it helps.
Especially if you work at a Met office.
Yeah.
Sorry, we digress. We have a habit of that.
Question 3. Thunder only happens when it's raining. This was universal. You said false.
Yeah.
Virtually everyone said false. Of course, it doesn't only happen when it's raining. You could hear thunder when you're distant from the storm, or it could be that the rain's coming out of the cloud, it's not reaching the ground, it's Virgo, or it could, like someone said, happen over a volcano. Lots of reasons why it doesn't necessarily have to be raining when you get thunder. So Fleetwood Mac, completely incorrect there.
We should get them on.
Correct there. Let's bring all these.
Have a music.
Correct their assumptions about the weather. Question number 4. Why does it always rain on me? Maybe, Travis, it's because you live in Mount Waialeale, Hawaii, where, according to the Guinness Book of Records, they get up to 350 days of rain a year.
So they have like 2 weeks of it not raining. Ouch.
Yeah, most months they get 29 or 30 days of rain. But it's not necessarily torrential rain, it's just constant rain. They get this feed of moist air coming up the mountain off the Pacific. So, congratulations if you got that. I think about 28% of people got that at home. Mount Waialeale in Hawaii. Not far off Hilo in Hawaii, also one of the wettest cities in the USA, and they get a lot of rain days. Now, Mawsynram in India was a red herring because that's the wettest place on Earth, but they get all their rain in the monsoon. They get a dry period, so they don't have the most number of rainy days. Cherrapunji also very wet, a lot of rain, like Mawsynram, but all in one go. Katrina and the Waves sang I'm Walking on the Sunshine. What's the temperature of the surface of the sun? And you went with A, 5,500 Celsius. You're correct.
Yay.
Well done. 15 million is the interior of the sun.
Got 3 out of 5. That's not too bad.
Yeah, pretty good.
And one of the others, I was within a year. I know there are 4 options, but do you get me? I was close. So I'll say 3.5. And
well,
the other
no,
one,
there's no half points for getting close.
So I got 3.5 out of 5. Well done, me.
We're not writing that down in the records. No. Lots of 3 out of 5s and a couple of 2s. Donald Barron got 3 out of 5. Sin Wong, 3 out of 5. Donovan Phillips, 2 out of 5. Chazando LFC, 5 out of 5. Congratulations. Well
that's better
done.
than 3.5, isn't it?
Philip Russell, 5 out of 5. Really good. Hope you enjoyed that. Well, it's almost time to say our goodbyes, but just want to mention that we've got a video coming up tomorrow all about the Spanish plume. If you ever wonder what the Spanish plume is, it causes some of the most explosive thunderstorms that we get in the UK. So check that out. It's presented by me, and here's a little snippet. Unlike other tabloid favourites such as walls of rain or snow bombs, the Spanish plume is an actual meteorological term. But it's not just about toasty air from Spain. It's a very specific setup in the atmosphere, and one that can supercharge thunderstorms across Western Europe. Let's break it down.
Yeah, it's definitely one to watch. Like you said, Aidan, that's available to watch tomorrow. Also worth checking out the latest Climate Conversations episode, which went out earlier this week. I was lucky enough to go to a recent climate forum at Exeter University where we were talking about how we can communicate climate climate change, the climate information a bit better, and it's something I feel quite passionately about because it's a difficult topic. I'm sure lots of people watching feel passionately about the way that the climate's going, but reaching out to everyone is a very difficult thing. So do check that out. Like we mentioned at the start, I think it's Alex joining me next week. So he'll be asking me quiz questions. I don't know what his theme's going to be. Maybe it'll be weather and music part 2.
Definitely into his music. So
he is.
Maybe.
He is.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, he'll be disappointed he missed out on this. I think he might have got 5 out of 5.
Do you think?
Yeah, he knows his music.
They weren't all that music related, the
That's
questions.
true. That's true.
So,
yeah. Weather related, that was kind of the point. He probably knows more about music than weather, to be fair, Alex.
Possibly.
And sport, probably more than music and weather.
There we go. Well, he might make it sport related. I've never done a sport quiz for him. I've always done them for honour.
For people who don't know anything about sport, yeah.
And she's enjoyed them no end.
Yeah.
Like I said, there is still some heat around at the moment, some hot weather. Do stay safe in the hot weather. And also be aware that there is tropical storm currently going to become major hurricane Erin out in the Atlantic. Fortunately, like I mentioned, it's less likely to bring this major severe impacts to any major land at the moment, but we are going to be keeping an eye on it and how it's going to impact our weather as we head towards the bank holiday weekend. But from us here,
follow us on Spotify. I've been told to say, follow us on Spotify. There it is. Oh, that's me doing a deep dive or something. So you can get the deep dive on Spotify. You can get this on Spotify if you want to watch it back. Brilliant. Play it in your car while you're driving.
If you haven't had a chance to watch my deep dive from Tuesday, why not watch it, but on Spotify. But otherwise, have a lovely weekend, whatever you're up to. Enjoy the weather, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye-bye.